My name is T.S. Sudhir and today we are looking at an important component of the ISC English language paper. That's the English 1 paper, and that is article writing. We have already looked at film reviews, newspaper reports, book reviews, right? And we'll be looking at different other parts of this particular 15 marks question. You need to write it for about 300 words. Now, before I start, in fact, one student had asked me how different is a newspaper report from article writing. Okay, and I think that's an important question which students should be aware of. Now, when you talk of newspaper reports, that pertains essentially to something which has happened. It could be an accident, it could be a natural calamity like floods, it could be a theft or a robbery that has happened. So say a bank robbery has occurred and you are expected to write a 300 words newspaper report. So it's an immediate event. An article does not necessarily have to be an immediate event. It could be talking about describing an event, describing an experience. It could also be describing a place or a person. So an article is much more generic. It does not have to have the sense of immediacy. Okay, so that is one major difference between an article and a newspaper report. In a report, if you look at the video, you need to be very careful about by a staff reporter, the dateline, the time, the place where you're filing the report, the date, everything, all those kind of things are part of the format. The article is a little different in the manner in which it works on the format. So that's how it is different from a newspaper report. So when you talk about an article writing, three things you need to be very careful about. One, they need to be precise. You need to be very careful about the word limit. If you have said 300 words, it could be 25 words here and there. 325 is fine. But if you write a 450 word piece, it shows that you do not have an economy of words. And if you write less, it also shows that you do not have the enough caliber and the enough understanding and depth to be able to write a 300 word article. So the word limit in that sense becomes extremely important. Okay, then comes the other part of being objective and the kind of language that you use. The language cannot be slang, the language cannot be colloquial, the language cannot be the way you do it in everyday usage. Now, what has been normally seen in board examination papers is that you are sometimes asked to write something for a school magazine, which is why it's very important for you to actually know your reader. Who are you writing it for? Are you writing for it for the school magazine, which means in that case your reader is your classmates, your juniors, your seniors, your teachers, your principal, the management of the school, etc. Or if you're writing it for a city page of a newspaper, then who is your reader? It is essentially the people of that particular city, right? So you need to be very careful in your question. You make very sure that you understand who is going to be reading your story. So your article writing also has to keep your audience, your reader in mind. Now, what are the basic aspects of an article? It needs to provide information. This is important. It has to be informative. It has to be telling the reader something which he or she is not aware of. That is something very important. It has to present an opinion or make an argument, right? You need to, because you could, for instance, you could be talking about how wearing a mask is so important in order to ensure that COVID does not spread. In which case, you would be expected to give an opinion about what you think, and you're writing it for the city page of a newspaper, or you're writing about it in the school magazine. So you would be expected to take a stand, a responsible stand on what you think and where you stand on this particular subject, or you make an argument in favor of or against whatever the topic may be. Then comes, in terms of the format, the catchy title. Very important, because you cannot write if you're being asked about a debate competition that took place in your school, write a report on it, write an article on it for the school magazine. Now you cannot have a title like the Swami Vivekananda debate competition. Sorry, that is completely boring, unacceptable, and it does not inspire anyone to read that particular article. So you need to pick up some aspect of from what happened from the article in order to give it a more catchy title. For instance, debating skills to the fore at the Swami Vivekananda debate competition. Something which kind of brings out a particular aspect. Again, now this one was a little long, but don't make it so long. Not more than about 4 to 5 words should be the title. The title cannot be very long. So that is something again which you need to bear in mind. 4 to 5 word long title. Okay. Then comes the intro. Now the introduction is extremely significant. You need to come to the point straight. See, always make it a point to read the question very carefully, and especially when you get those 15 minutes, frame in your mind what are the points that you're going to talk about, and always remember to keep going back to the question even while you're writing the this particular article. So keep coming to the point straight away. Don't beat about the bush in the first paragraph and then introduce the topic in the second paragraph. You would be losing precious marks. So come to the point straight, and while you're doing that, ensure that apart from the title, your introduction also matters a lot, because if the introduction is something very bland and boring, you're unlikely to grab the attention of the examiner. So these are the 3 ways you could actually make your introduction very interesting. If you're talking about COVID, for instance, you could actually start with a startling statistic, which kind of has a shock element to it. That, do you know that so many people got infected because, and don't make up those statistics. I mean, try to, and especially in this COVID year, try to ensure that you know some of those facts, because it's quite possible that one of the questions in English grammar, English composition, in Hindi composition, anywhere would come related to COVID. So know some of the statistics and you could start with that. Or you could have some kind of a quote which kind of is connected with the topic which has been given to you, is not completely out of line. It actually helps you to grab the attention of your examiner. Or you could start with an amazing kind of a fact. Someone who is a COVID warrior, who has done some exemplary work. You are asked to profile a COVID warrior, right? Who has done some fantastic work. So you start with something which he or she has done in his locality, in his city, in his state, and start with something like that. You know, start it an article unlike a newspaper report. A newspaper report attacks the subject straight and said, a railway accident took place near Bhubaneswar this on Thursday morning. That kind of a thing. But an article, what it does is that it gives you the scope to have a slightly softer way of starting the topic. Even if you're describing, for instance, let's say a debate competition which has taken place in your school, you could talk about, you know, you could take up one of the lines which the winner of the debate competition won, saying that when this particular person, when Nandita won the prize, this is what she said. Or pick up a line from the prize winning debate speech which was given, or the argument that that particular person made, the argument that Sanjay, who won the second prize, made in order to emerge as one of the winners of the debate competition. So in order to kind of, you could start with a soft introduction, but something which would again interest the examiner or the evaluator. So it's very important to have a catchy title. That becomes very important. The introduction becomes equally important. Then we come to the body of the article, which would actually be the meat of the article. Here, what you always need to do in every question that you would get, you would be getting about 5 to 6 points that you need to include. So your body of 2 to 3 paragraphs would always need to include all the different aspects in order preferably, and ensure that you don't leave out anything. They should be distinct points from another, and that's how you will be awarded marks. So the body is important, where you could talk about the problem, if that's what the article is talking about, the causes of the problem, and also give an opinion as to what can be done in order to deal with the problem. So this essentially, these are the 3 things that you need to keep in mind as far as the body of paragraph 2, 3 and 4 is concerned. Then finally you come to the conclusion. Now conclusion, many students make the mistake of just rounding off whatever has been written so far in the introduction and the body and repeat it all over again. Please do not make that mistake. It will not get you any extra marks. In the conclusion, you need to kind of not just round it off, but also provide some kind of a solution if that is what is the article all about. Or again, something you could end with one of these 3 aspects, especially a startling statistic or a quote in order to give it a more of a well-rounded kind of an ending. So those are some of the things which you need to, while you are summarizing. Now summarizing does not mean repetition of what all you have said so far, but you could be making a very strong comment on what you think and where you stand on that particular topic. Now for instance, one of the things that I mentioned is about the COVID thing that you could get. You could get something relating to sanitation in your areas, right? As to why is it that Indore won the Swachh Bharat ranking, right? Write an article on how Indore achieved this particular ranking. Now, it's quite possible that you may not know much about Indore, but you could use more generic terms, and actually you could talk about how a clean city, what are the steps that have been taken, and what are the steps that other cities could actually take in order to emulate what cities like Indore or Mysore, which are some of the best ranking cities as per the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan rankings, are concerned. Or you could get something related to the fact that IPL was played without any spectators, right? Write an article on how what kind of an experience it was to kind of have no spectators inside the cricket stadium when IPL was played. Again, you need to have a catchy title, an introduction which comes directly to the point, the body of the story, body of the article, where you talk about what would have been the effect on the cricketers, what would have been the impact on the revenue of the for the administrators of the game, what could have been the impact on the television rights. And even though it was not that, the television viewership actually rose during this period, with most people consuming it on television. And in conclusion, that you would hope that the next edition, by the time the next edition of the IPL is played in the summer of 2021, things would get a lot better. So that's how you need to structure it. So in the 15 minutes, make it a point to mark out what your intro is going to be, importantly what your body is going to be, what are the distinct points that you're going to make, because your question will also contain these aspects: impact on television rights, impact on revenue, impact on spectators, impact on the game, on the cricketers, everything. Okay, so and the conclusion, which as I said, should be actually making some kind of a solution or forming some kind of an opinion, expressing some kind of an opinion on this particular subject. So that's how you write an article. I would suggest that going ahead before the examinations, you practice with at least 4 or 5 different topics so that you get an idea, a hang of it. You would be doing so in your board examination, in your pre-board examinations, but even ahead of the board examinations, ensure that each one, because you do not know which one you will get, whether you'll get to write a film review or a book review, a paper report, or a newspaper article, you do not know. So you need to practice each one of them so that whichever comes, you are well prepared for the same. Thank you very much for watching.